All right, get ready because today we're going deep on persuasion.
Ooh, fun.
We're looking at Brian Lane's Persuasion and Dark Psychology.
Okay.
We always get questions about persuasion,
Right.
like how it works, how to do it ethically,
Mm,
and how to spot when it's being used on you.
for sure.
This book really digs into all of that,
Oh, yeah.
even the more manipulative side of things.
Oh, wow. That dark psychology part.
Exactly.
It is kind of scary how much persuasion we see every day.
Isn't it?
I mean, like, just think about it.
Everywhere you turn.
From ads to conversations, we're constantly being influenced.
And we probably don't even realize it half the time.
Right.
So Brian Lane, how does he actually define persuasion?
Well, he says it's about changing someone's behavior,
Okay.
their feelings, thoughts, or attitudes.
So it's not just about like making a sale or winning an argument.
No, it's much broader than that.
It's about influencing choices, not forcing them.
Exactly.
But why do you think this matters so much?
Mm.
Like, for us as individuals, not just salespeople or politicians.
That's a good question.
I mean, it's easy to think of persuasion as like a specialized skill,
Right, only for certain professions.
but in reality, we all use it every day.
Oh, absolutely.
Convincing a friend to see a movie,
Yeah.
negotiating a better price.
All persuasion.
Exactly. So understanding these principles,
Yeah,
it can make you a more effective communicator overall
for sure. And a better decision maker, too.
because you understand how you're being influenced.
Exactly.
It's like having a secret weapon, right?
Kind of.
For navigating all those tricky human interactions.
And there's the flip side, too.
Oh, right. Protecting yourself from manipulation.
Exactly. Because when you understand how persuasion works
You can spot the unethical tactics.
and avoid being taken advantage of.
So wielding the power of persuasion,
Yeah,
but also knowing when to shield yourself from it.
exactly.
Now, the book mentions something called the Yale Communication Project
Oh, yes. Classic research.
from way back in the 1950s.
I mean, they really revolutionized our understanding of persuasion.
How so?
They showed that it's not just about presenting facts.
There's more to it than that.
Much more.
What else is there?
Well, it's about how people think about those facts.
Ah, so the audience's mindset matters.
It's huge.
Okay,
You got to engage their mind, appeal to their emotions.
so how you frame the message is important.
It all comes down to how it resonates with their existing beliefs.
Wow, so much more nuance than just stating the facts.
Well, it's a whole art form, really.
So it's not just what you say, but how you say it.
And to whom you're saying it.
To whom, that's key.
Right, the audience is everything.
And that leads us to the theories of persuasion.
Right.
Lane highlights 3 in particular:
Let's hear them.
social judgment theory, cognitive dissonance theory,
Okay.
and the elaboration likelihood model.
Lots to unpack there.
Let's start with social judgment theory.
Right.
What's the gist of that one?
Well, this theory says we're more likely to be persuaded by messages that already align with our existing beliefs.
So finding common ground is key,
It's all about that sweet spot.
where your message resonates with what they already think,
Exactly.
like tailoring your message to fit the audience.
You got it.
So for example, if you're trying to persuade someone
Yeah.
to invest in renewable energy,
Okay.
you're going to have more luck if they already care about the environment.
Way more likely to succeed.
Makes sense.
Right.
Now, what about cognitive dissonance theory?
That one's a bit more complex.
In what way?
Well, it suggests that people don't like having conflicting beliefs
Okay.
or when their actions don't match their values.
We want to be consistent.
Exactly. So to resolve that inner tension,
What do they do?
they might change their behavior to align with their beliefs
Okay.
or justify their actions even if they know it's not the best thing.
Oh, so like rationalizing bad habits.
Exactly. Or even avoiding information that challenges their views.
Because it's just too uncomfortable to face that conflict.
Right. It's a way of protecting their ego.
Interesting. So how does this relate to persuasion?
Well, imagine a tobacco company.
Okay.
They use ads to downplay the risks of smoking.
So a smoker who knows it's bad for them.
They're already experiencing that dissonance, right?
A conflict between their actions and their knowledge.
Exactly. So they might cling to those ads
To justify their smoking.
and reduce that inner conflict.
Wow, that's a powerful example
Right.
of how this theory can be used to influence behavior.
Even when it's not in the person's best interest.
Now, the last theory, the elaboration likelihood model.
Ah, yes. The ELM.
That one sounds intriguing.
It's a classic.
What's it all about?
Well, it basically says there are 2 main routes to persuasion.
2 routes. Okay, I'm
You
listening.
have the central route and the peripheral route.
Tell me more.
The central route is all about logic and facts.
Okay. Sounds straightforward.
It's like building a strong argument with evidence and reasoning.
So you're winning someone over with your logic.
Exactly. But it requires the audience to be motivated to think deeply.
That's a key point.
It's not always easy to get people to engage in that way.
Right. They need to be able to process the information.
And willing to put in the effort.
So what about this other route?
Ah, the peripheral route.
What's that all about?
This one's less about deep thinking, more about emotion and cues.
Like what kind of cues?
Think about a car commercial.
Okay.
Beautiful scenery, a celebrity driving. Not much about the car's features.
So it's about the feeling, the image they're projecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Creating positive associations, bypassing the logical part.
Interesting. So two very different approaches.
They both have their place.
I'm starting to see how these theories play out in the real world.
Me too.
Have you ever thought about which route works best on you?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah, it can help you be more aware of how you're being influenced.
And make more conscious choices as a consumer.
Now, Lane also discusses what he calls the 6 powerful principles of persuasion.
Ah, yes, Cialdini's work.
6 principles. Lay them on me.
These principles are like the fundamentals of influence, you
The
know?
building blocks of persuasion.
Yeah, exactly. And they can be used ethically or unethically.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with those principles.
All right, the first one is reciprocity.
Reciprocity. I've heard of that.
It's that idea that when someone does something for us,
We feel obligated to do something for them in return.
exactly, like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing.
Makes sense?
Think about those free samples at the grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
They'll give you a little taste.
And then you feel like you have to buy something.
Exactly. It triggers that sense of obligation.
I've definitely fallen for that one.
You all have.
Okay, what's next on the list?
Next up, we have scarcity.
Scarcity, like when something is rare,
Exactly. And that makes it more desirable.
because we don't want to miss out.
That fear of missing out, FOMO,
Oh, I know FOMO all too well.
it's a powerful motivator.
Like those online sales with the countdown timer.
Yes. Creating that sense of urgency.
Get it before it's gone.
Exactly. It pushes people to act quickly.
Smart tactic for marketers.
Very effective.
Okay, what's the next principle?
The third one is authority.
Authority, okay.
We tend to trust people we see as experts or authority figures.
Like doctors or scientists.
Exactly. Or celebrities endorsing products.
Right, because we assume they know what you're talking about.
Their credibility gives the product or message more weight.
So we're more likely to be persuaded.
It's a shortcut for our brains, you know.
Instead of doing our own research.
We rely on their expertise.
Okay, 3 down, 3 to go.
All right, next we have commitment and consistency.
Commitment and consistency, those go together.
Yeah, it's about our desire to be consistent with our past actions.
Even if those actions were small.
Even small commitments can influence our future behavior.
So, like if I agree to a small favor.
You're more likely to say yes to a bigger one later.
Interesting.
It's about maintaining a sense of self-image, you know?
We want to appear consistent.
Exactly. We don't want to seem flaky or unreliable.
These principles are really getting me thinking.
I told you.
What's number 5?
The fifth principle is liking.
Liking, that's pretty straightforward.
We're more easily persuaded by people we like, simple as that.
Well, it makes sense.
We're more open to their message.
And more trusting of their intentions.
Right, it's about building rapport and connection.
Okay, last but not least, what's number 6?
The sixth principle is social proof.
Social proof, what's that all about?
Well, it's that idea that we look to others for cues on how to behave.
Especially in uncertain situations.
Exactly, like when we're not sure what to do.
So if everyone else is doing it.
We assume it must be the right thing to do.
The classic bandwagon effect.
Exactly.
Like seeing a long line outside a restaurant.
You automatically assume it must be good.
Because why else would so many people be waiting?
Right. We use others as a guide.
Makes sense.
So this principle can be used by highlighting testimonials.
Or reviews or popularity.
Exactly, showing that others have already endorsed the product or idea.
Fascinating stuff.
It really is.
I'm already seeing these principles at play everywhere.
I told you they're everywhere.
Now, the book also mentions body language.
Ah, yes, the unspoken persuader.
Can we actually control our body language to be more persuasive?
Absolutely, it's a powerful tool.
So it's not just about what you say, but how you present yourself physically.
Exactly, it's about projecting confidence and engagement.
Okay, what are some key things to keep in mind?
Well, posture is crucial, whether you're standing or sitting.
Okay.
Aim for a posture that conveys presence and confidence.
So stand up straight, shoulders back.
Exactly, and make eye contact with your audience.
No hiding behind a podium.
No slouching allowed.
Got it. What about hand gestures?
Gestures can be very effective for emphasizing your points.
So use them strategically.
Exactly. Aim for open and expansive gestures.
Nothing too frantic or distracting.
Right, you want to convey openness and sincerity.
What about eye contact?
Eye contact is crucial for connecting with your audience.
Don't stare them down, though.
No, but don't avoid eye contact either.
Find that sweet spot.
Exactly, a balance that feels natural and engaging.
It's like learning a whole new language.
It is the language of nonverbal communication.
And this is especially important in the digital age.
Oh, absolutely.
So much communication happens online now.
Video calls, virtual meetings.
And even though we're just faces on a screen,
our body language is still being transmitted.
so we need to be even more mindful of our nonverbal cues.
For sure. It can make or break your message.
And what about reading other people's body language?
Ah, that's a valuable skill, too.
Any tips for becoming a better body language detective?
Well, pay attention to their posture shifts.
Okay.
Facial expressions, hand gestures, are they leaning in or away?
Are their arms crossed?
Exactly. Are they mirroring your movements?
So many subtle clues.
It's like a whole new layer of understanding.
It really is. Now, shifting gears a bit.
Sure.
We've talked about ethical persuasion, but the book also talks about manipulation.
The dark side of persuasion.
Where do we draw that line between the two?
That's the million-dollar question.
It's not always clear-cut, is it?
No, there's a gray area for sure.
But I guess it comes down to intent.
Intent and outcome, that's key.
Ethical persuasion aims to benefit both parties.
It's about open communication, respecting boundaries.
Manipulation is about personal gain at the expense of others.
Exactly. It's about using those techniques for selfish reasons.
So some tactics are definitely considered manipulative.
Like lying, deception, guilt-tripping, playing the victim.
Those cross the line.
For sure, they're about control and power, not mutual benefit.
Now, what are some warning signs of manipulation?
Well, one common tactic is flattery.
Flattery will get you everywhere, as they say.
But be wary of excessive or insincere flattery.
Ah, so it's about being discerning.
Exactly. Genuine compliments are one thing.
But manipulation is about using flattery to disarm you.
To make you more susceptible to influence.
What else should we watch out for?
Another tactic is playing on someone's insecurities.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before.
Manipulators are skilled at identifying vulnerabilities.
And then they exploit them.
To get what they want.
It's like preying on our weaknesses.
Exactly. So be mindful of anyone who makes you feel insecure.
What else? What else?
Another common tactic is creating a false sense of urgency.
Ah, like those limited time offers.
Exactly. Or using deadlines or threats.
To force a quick decision.
Without giving you time to think it through.
They're trying to bypass our rational thinking.
They want you to act impulsively out of fear or pressure.
So sneaky.
It's a classic manipulation tactic.
Any other red flags to be aware of?
One more that's particularly insidious is gaslighting.
Gaslighting, I've heard that term.
It's about denying reality, twisting facts, making you doubt yourself.
Puts you question your own sanity.
Exactly. It's about gaining control by undermining your perception.
That's scary.
It can be very damaging to a person's self-esteem.
And hard to recognize because it's so subtle.
Exactly. It's a gradual erosion of trust in your own judgment.
Okay, so we've got all these warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we actually protect ourselves from being manipulated?
The most important thing is to trust your gut instincts.
If something feels off?
Don't ignore it. That's your intuition trying to tell you something.
So even if you can't pinpoint what's wrong?
If it feels manipulative, it probably is.
And don't be afraid to say no.
Exactly. Set boundaries. Walk away from uncomfortable situations.
We have the power to choose how we respond.
We're not helpless victims.
That's a good reminder. So we've talked about these tactics, but the digital age has got to be a whole other ballgame, right?
Oh, absolutely.
How has technology changed the whole persuasion game?
Well, for one thing, the internet and social media,
Yeah,
they've created this environment of constant persuasion.
it's everywhere.
We're just bombarded with messages all the time.
Ads, social media posts, you name it.
It's like information overload.
And it's all designed to influence us in some way.
Exactly. And it's not always obvious, you
Mhm.
know?
Right, it can be very subtle.
Like those personalized recommendations.
The ones that seem to know exactly what you want.
It's like they're reading our minds.
So creepy.
And it's all thanks to algorithms and data analysis.
They're using our own data to target us.
Exactly. So it's more important than ever to be aware.
So how do we navigate this digital world?
Well, one thing is to develop critical thinking skills.
Not just blindly accepting everything we see.
Right. Question the information, consider the source,
Look for potential biases.
and be mindful of your own online behavior.
The data we share.
Exactly. The more you understand how your data is used.
The better choices you can make.
It's about taking back control.
Now, Lane also talks about more extreme forms of persuasion.
Ah, yes, the coercive side of things.
This is where it gets really scary.
It can be very intense.
What are some examples of these coercive techniques?
Well, they often involve isolation.
Like cutting someone off from their support system.
Exactly, and controlling their access to information.
So they're only getting one side of the story,
Right, and then they use things like sleep deprivation
or other forms of stress.
to break down their resistance.
Wow, it's like brainwashing.
It can be very effective, unfortunately.
Where do we see these techniques being used?
Well, cults are a prime example.
Cults. Yeah, that makes sense.
They isolate individuals, bombard them with propaganda
And use a system of rewards and punishments.
to control their behavior.
That's terrifying.
It is, and
Yeah.
it's a reminder that persuasion can be used for harmful purposes,
So important to be aware of these tactics.
even if we never encounter them ourselves.
Now let's shift gears a bit.
Sure.
We've talked about the dark side, but persuasion can be used for good, too.
Absolutely. It can be a powerful force for positive change.
Can you give us some examples?
Oh, there's so many throughout history.
Like what?
Well, think of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches.
I have a dream.
Exactly. His words galvanized the civil rights movement.
So powerful.
Or Nelson Mandela, his fight for racial equality.
Inspiring examples.
And it's not just these big historical figures.
Right, it happens every day on a smaller scale.
People using their voices to advocate for change.
Making a difference in their community.
Exactly. It's about using persuasion ethically and authentically.
To create a better world.
That's the power of persuasion at its best.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has been fun.
We've covered so much ground.
From the basic principles to the ethical implications.
And the impact of technology.
It's a complex topic.
It really is. So what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I hope they've gained a better understanding
Of how persuasion works?
and how it's used in their everyday lives.
So they can be more conscious consumers.
Exactly, and more effective communicators themselves.
Using those skills for good.
And of course, recognizing those red flags of manipulation.
So they can protect themselves.
Knowledge is power.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's been a pleasure discussing this with you.
Likewise, thank you for sharing your insights. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into persuasion. Remember, this is a powerful tool. Use it wisely and ethically. And stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll be exploring a